if you're a Christian Scientist and you're not a young Earth creationist, you're in Romans 1. You're suppressing the truth, because this is how it gets portrayed. Like you
Mm-hmm.
secretly know better, but no. I'm not a science guy, so I let the science people do the science thing. And I have to admit, I was probably influenced in grad school because, again, my original context was young Earth, kind of creationism. Well, when I went to grad school at Wisconsin, our church, and again, this was a serious church. These are real Christians. We're not just sticking the name on the door, so people come and give us money. These were serious Christians. We were dominated, and I mean dominated, by people in the hard sciences. We had the head of the botany department as an elder. We had a professor of electrical engineering. We had 2 research physicists. We had an entomologist. We had a couple biologists. We had a chemist. The grad schools, and I'm like, hey, where are the humanities people? I'm like the only one here. Everybody else is a scientist. But
Okay.
it was really good for me. And there was like one other person in a humanities field as a grad student. This was a church that was really heavily, attended, by graduate students and professors. And it was good to sort of be the minority there, because you get into conversations. Okay, like why do you see it this way? And how do you articulate this idea, or to friends or whatever? How do you parse this out in your head? And so that was really, really good exposure, because I couldn't question their commitment to the Lord, to a high view of Scripture. I mean, I couldn't question any of those things. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
anything to nitpick. And it was my first real exposure to some rigorous-minded individuals that just did not take what you would sort of, again, in my context, kind of growing up, which you would think, well, if you're really a Christian, you think this. No, actually not. It's a whole
Right.
lot wider than that. So I tend to just, I'm gonna let those people do their work. I trust them that they're not, like, if you're a Christian Scientist and you're not a young Earth creationist, you're in Romans 1. You're suppressing the truth, because this is how it gets portrayed. Like you
Mm-hmm.
secretly know better, but no, they're you gotta trust people at some point that they're really being honest. They're not sinister in asking the questions. They're just not. Um, and be okay with that. Just be okay with that. So I think that's really invaluable. And for me, that it didn't necessarily, it didn't say, well, now that you've met a lot of people who aren't young Earth creationists, you need to find a different way to interpret Genesis 1 through 3. That was never a thought I had. I already knew, because of Hebrew grammar, that all these things were on the table. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, yeah, that is sustainable. That might be the best way to think about it, because if God's, the ultimate origin of both things, what we call in theology special revelation and general revelation, and he's not a schizophrenic, these things should probably align.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ought to be asking, what's the most coherent alignment? What might that be? And there might be 2 or 3 ways to align them. Okay, well, now which one do I think has the least problems, or is the most plausible? I mean, that's where it becomes fun. It gives you something to think about, as opposed to, well, I've just checked all the boxes now, and now I can compartmentalize, my Christian experience, and go off and play fantasy football because I want to engage my brain somewhere. It we have a lot of people in this situation. They got all the boxes checked, and they really assume they don't have anything to think about anymore, when there's lots to think about. And God isn't threatened. He's not threatened. And you shouldn't be either.